Welcome back to the Fit Like a Girl podcast. My name is Jackie. I am your host. Today I am joined by Bailey Lau from Bailey Lau Fitness. How's it going, Bailey?
Super good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I wanted to chat with you today about because you are a fellow personal trainer from also the Edmonton area. And yeah, I just thought that just kind of getting to know you a little bit more, that it would be great for us to chat about your own experiences in the fitness industry as a trainer and also just being in the fitness industry in your own journey, as well as we could chat about just women in general, strength training, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, how's
All
that
the
sound?
things.
Yeah,
Perfect.
all the things. So, I thought first off, I would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about your journey and where kind of you started and what led you here and how you got into training and all that stuff.
Yes, let's take the longest route possible. We'll
Okay,
carry
I
that
like
forward. So
it.
I, as a lot of people, played a lot of sports as a kid. My mom put me in absolutely everything. And then when I got into high school, I started getting a little bit more competitive, narrowed down on soccer and volleyball. She took me to lots of workout classes. I don't know if anyone's heard of Kango jumps.
Yes.
It was like the moon boot class where you like
Yes.
it was a pretty intense cardio. But anyway, so I went to those with her. She took me to Zumba classes. Fitness was really important to her. So yeah, she was a big part in me sort of taking this route, even unknowingly. After I graduated from high school, I went in to get my kinesiology degree, and I played soccer in university for the university there.
Oh, no
Um,
way.
yeah, which was awesome. This was not my first interaction with a trainer because I also trained with someone in high school just to sort of get me ready for a season. But
Mhm.
yeah, so this team trainer, she was in charge of making sure that people weren't playing through injuries, off season strength and conditioning, stuff like that. So that was my first sort of real programming that I was to follow, and of course it was pretty intense. She intended it to be that way, right? Of course,
I
female.
bet being a high level athlete like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. But yeah, I definitely learned a lot from that. And then, of course, kinesiology is more of a stepping stone degree. I don't know a whole lot of people I graduated with that do that as their profession.
Mhm.
Anyway, after I graduated, I went on to work as a physiotherapist aide.
Mhm.
I hated it. I
Oh
worked
no.
for 6 months. It was sort of a relationship where the physios would just kind of hand off everything they didn't want to do. I wasn't helping anyone directly. I wasn't fulfilling it all. You know,
Oh,
terrible pay, terrible hours. It wasn't fun. So I
that's
actually,
disappointing.
yeah, right. Even after a 4 year degree, I was like, why would I do this? So I actually fell into personal training by accident. It was not in my plan at all.
Mhm.
Um, so I just started applying to like whatever would take a kines degree, and it
Mhm.
ended up being this commercial gym that I worked for 2.5 years. It's not that I had a bad experience there or anything, but I'm sure as you know, it is a lot more fulfilling to run your own business.
Yeah.
Um, it's easier to grow that way, all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, and I guess maybe a little bit of extra background. I still played soccer up until about a year ago when I tore my ACL. And I have been rehabbing that. And you know what? Actually, going through a serious injury like that, and then of course the surgery that inevitably I had to go through to get back to soccer, it's opened my eyes as a personal trainer. A
Mhm.
little bit more sympathy, empathy, um, compassion,
Mhm.
and I've gotten pretty good at working around injuries, even in my clients' programs.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was just kind of thrown at you all at once. So crap, now I can't do this, now I can't do that, and you sort of need to work around things. Um, so even though I did not enjoy it, and I would not recommend,
I've been there.
right? It's taught me a lot. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
It really does, and I 100% wanna hear all about your ACL journey. You mentioned a couple of things where, like, you know, your mom getting you really into fitness and stuff like that, and you said it wasn't necessarily intentional with her. Is she just a super active person and it was just a part of her life? Like, is that how it just integrated onto you?
Yeah, definitely. She was always into fitness, and she is now too. And it wasn't until I moved into the strength coach sort of part of my fitness journey and my job. And now she started lifting more weights, and she's at the age where she's going through perimenopause, moving into menopause. And so my influence, I got the influence from her to take care of my body. Exercise is good for you, your body and your mind, your relationships and stuff. And now she's learned from me that strength training is really important. She actually just got herself a squat rack, like an actual squat rack for her home gym, which is awesome. She can lift more weights.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. I love that you inspired her so much to actually start lifting. And like, does she still do like the Kangoo and the Zumba and all that kind of stuff?
No, she does. She likes yoga.
Yeah.
But her focus, is strength training.
That's amazing. I love that so much. I love how she even like went as far as to get her own squat rack and everything for her own home gym.
Yeah, well, she came over. We bought a couple of pieces of equipment. She came over, and I trained her for an hour, and she didn't realize how much she could lift when she didn't have to grab her bar from the floor and press it over her head, and then get into a back squat.
Right? Yes, so. And definitely also the decreased risk of injury.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, big time decreased risk of injury when you can set up your squat and stuff properly with an actual squat rack and not like heave it over your head onto your shoulders. Yeah.
And even the fact that now she has safety arms for her bench press. She sort of got into, and what a lot of people do is they don't want to lift too heavy when they're alone, just in case they get stuck under the bar, which is a real thing. So.
Yeah, it's nice having. I call them holy shit handles. I know that's not what they're actually called, but that's what I call them.
Soccer arms, I think.
Yeah. And so, are you still playing soccer, or is your soccer career kind of on hiatus while you're still rehabbing your knee?
Yeah, so I'm 6 months post-op. There's lots of stats around ACL and returning to sport. And I'm not going to go over them because I'm not an expert. I'm just going through it with my physio, with his guidance. But I'm definitely not going to go back until at least month 10. And I think what we recommend is 12 months.
Yeah. Let's actually get right into it. Tell me your ACL journey, because I also I don't know how much you've seen on my socials, and it's been a long time since I've gone through mine, but I also went through an ACL journey, I'll call it as well. But I love talking knee injuries. So tell me all about it. What happened?
Yeah, totally relatable too, right? Lots of people have knee issues.
Oh,
100%. It was indoor soccer season, of course, because it happened in February. Just like one random turn. It felt like someone had kicked me. My knee was extended, collapsed in. I fell over. My coach insisted, I stay on the ground. I think I let out like one yelp, sort of as a kind of surprise, but there was no pain, which is kind of why I stayed a little bit delusional for a while, is because I was like, I'm not hurt. My knee just isn't doing what I want it to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so I saw the physio that 3 days later, and he said, Bailey, I think you tore your ACL. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. I got up, I did air squats, walked to the change room, drove home that day. I was like, no, you're wrong. I'm not hurt. Like, it'll go away. And then after a few days of being like, he's actually, that's his specialty, is ACLR. I was like, maybe he has a little bit. And then, of course,
maybe his expertise is valid here.
Maybe he knows what he's talking about. I think it was just I didn't want it to be happening, so that's why I stayed in that for so long. And then, of course, the MRI came, and then it was a complete ACL tear. There was nothing else that went into it, which is probably why there was no pain associated.
No meniscus or anything like that involved?
No.
Yeah.
And I will say, through my journey, I did get lucky. The fact that it happened, it was a complete ACL tear. Nothing else went with it. The surgery went well. I've been recovering, at a decent pace.
That's good.
And I've learned things along the way. So if it had to happen, I'm glad that there weren't complications or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so I waited a few months for surgery. That was back in July. I had my surgery. I had to take time off of in-person training, which I hated.
Yeah.
Bored at home.
Right. Doing physio. That's it.
Oh, I was consistent though. I was like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to be a good example, and if I want to get better and get back to playing sports and being functional, um,
Hmm.
I got to do what he's telling me to do.
Yep.
Obviously, he's the expert.
Hmm.
He knows what he's talking about. It's got to get done. Otherwise, I'm not going to get better. And then what kind of example am I setting for clients and people that I work
Yeah.
with? Yeah.
100%. Definitely. Where, if you don't mind me asking, where did you go for physio?
No, that's okay. He's pretty good. So of course, if anyone's in the area, I would go see Brendan. So his company's called Return to Performance, but he actually works under Orca now.
Oh, okay.
They're located in Sherwood Park.
Nice. That's awesome. And did you have surgery in Edmonton?
So the surgeon is from Edmonton, but he
Mhm.
does some of his days in Leduc. So I actually had the surgery
Yeah.
there because I don't
Gotcha.
live in Edmonton and pass going all the way downtown for a surgery. Like no.
Yeah, no, that's very, very fair. I think when I had my surgery, the initial surgery was supposed to be in Leduc as well. And then when it had to get rebooked, I had it in Edmonton. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, how did you find the surgery and all that kind of stuff? Because, like, I know from my experience, and you probably felt the same way, like, it's so interesting. You spend so much time on prehab when it comes to your ACL injury and building up muscle and building up your hamstring and all that kind of stuff. And then when you have surgery, it's so interesting to me how your muscles just they're just vanished. Like they're gone. And like then you literally start from square zero,
Mhm.
rebuilding all of these muscles that you just spent building prehabbing. So how did you find that process?
You know what? The most annoying part for me was that during prehab, I didn't have any pain. Like as long as my knee wasn't swollen and it wasn't reacting in that way, and there wasn't fluid buildup or whatever, I could just keep progressing, keep getting better. After the surgery, that wasn't the case. Like, of course, they give you pain medication for after the surgery for like the week or two afterward,
Mhm.
um, which was cool, because I didn't have to be in complete agony the whole time.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, after surgery, it has been a way different game
Mhm.
because I didn't lose any strength after I tore my ACL, right?
Mhm.
Because I could still move, uh, and it wasn't the amount of time in between me being able to strength train to the degree that I was doing um, before I got hurt.
Right.
So that gap between not being able to use the muscle to the degree that I was using it before was a lot shorter than after my surgery, where
Mhm.
you just can't jump back into it.
No, not at all. That's for sure. Even walking.
Well, I was kind of stubborn. Um, I was walking. I was putting full weight on my leg the day of the
Wow.
surgery.
Were you really? That's incredible. That's awesome.
The painkillers helped, of course.
They do.
Yeah. But also, I was really stubborn about it. Um,
Yeah.
and it's not like it pushed me back. I wasn't a complete idiot about it.
Mhm.
If it was hurting more than it was supposed to be hurting, I was like, okay, Bailey, dial it back. Listen to
Yeah.
your body, all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I did well. I think I had initially, of course, the quad kind of just stops working because of the way that
It
they do
does.
it,
Yeah. Isn't
right?
that so weird?
Well,
Yeah.
it makes sense, but
It does. It definitely does. But I remember like one of the first things that my physio was like you got to get those quad muscles firing again. And honestly, like that mind to muscle connection was gone. Like I might as well have been trying to levitate my TV because like it just like it's not working.
yeah, exactly. The nice thing about Brendan is that because this is his specialty, um, he said go get a muscle stim machine.
Mhm.
My mom bought me a cryo cuff, which was super helpful. I iced
Oh,
my
cool.
knee 6 times a day for the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, I did too.
Which
Like,
to sit with an ice pack on and to have it melt 6 times a day, you know how irritating that would have been?
it is. It definitely is where you feel like you're constantly just sitting under an ice pack. I loved the ice pack though because it helps so much with the pain after surgery. Like it was just like, yes, give me all the
Yeah,
ice.
right? It was a better sensation than it just like feels hot and swollen the whole
Yes.
time.
And
My
so
like
hard.
my leg was just a cylinder all the way down to my
It
calf.
is. It is. Yeah. Was it also super pink? Because mine was like where they put like the dye on or whatever. My legs were like pink for weeks.
Mhm. No, I didn't get that. Do you
Pink
mind me
legs?
asking how many years ago was your surgery?
In 2016. So coming on 8 years ago now. Yeah. And then I had both legs done in 2016 because like you, I had no pain after I tore my ACL. So I continued training jujitsu and kickboxing and all these things. And then I had my surgery booked. And then 2 weeks before my surgery, I went for one last jujitsu class and I tore my other ACL. And my surgeon was not happy with me. So we had to rebook it and then do both legs at the same time. We didn't have to do two legs at the same time. She gave me the choice, and I was like, no, if we're going to do this once, we're going to get her done. And
Yeah,
it sucked.
wow.
It totally sucked.
Yeah,
And then in 2018, I tore my meniscus, and then I had to get that removed. And since then, knock on wood, they've been okay.
since you did that, so that's good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the kind of thing too. A lot of people tear their ACL when they're quite young because that's usually when you're at the highest level of your sport.
100%.
Um, yeah, so what is it like? Usually around the age of 16 to 20 or whatever. Again, I'm
Yeah.
not going to give statistics because this isn't my area of expertise, but I didn't tear mine until I was 27
Hmm.
after I had played the college level.
Yeah.
I was just I play women's Div 1, like it's not
Yeah.
even it's still competitive, but it's not super intense.
Yeah. And
And
it
like
is literally just like the weirdest wrong movement, and it's just like gone. Yeah. It's insane.
she gives up and then
It is.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I always joke that the knee is literally the stupidest design joint because it's like we're going to hold up your entire leg with just like a couple of strings that tear
Mhm.
very easily. And if you turn the wrong way, you're fucked.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can move on from the ACL. I could honestly do a whole podcast on just ACL injuries alone because I don't know why I feel like such a nerd about it now. But anyways, we can kind of move on past this. One thing I did also want to bring up is I see your puppies on your Instagram all the time. So tell me about your dogs.
My dogs. Ray, actually his birthday is today, January 30th.
Happy birthday, Ray.
He's 7 years old. Um, yeah, of course we got him as a puppy, and he's a beagle cross with a pug,
Oh my God.
and he is a couple tens of pounds overweight.
As every beagle and pug cross in the world has ever been.
Hard. Yeah, and I'm like I want him to live a long time, and of course, dogs if they're overweight, it
Hmm.
sort of shortens their lifespan. So I'm like I'm trying to work on it, but the breed isn't helping me at all. And then Lulu, she's a rescue. She's a boxer mix. They think it's Mastiff, but she's kind of small for that. Um, and we got her 2 years ago, and they said so. I think she's either 4 or 5 right now because I think they thought she was 2 or 3 when they got her.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's super funny. I love how you talk about the beagle pug mix because, yeah, like every beagle and every pug. I used to be a vet tech, and in my former career, every beagle and every pug would be like kind of overweight. It's just what they are. It's like labs. Labs are the same way. They're just prone to obesity.
Yeah, unfortunately, but
Yes, yes, that's very true. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like your coaching and what clients you work with, how you help them, what kind of, I guess, like things do they find are some of their biggest obstacles and stuff like that? Tell me a little bit about the coaching side of things and how that's been.
yeah. Well, like I mentioned before, I'm a strength coach. So that's what me and my clients work on. If people want to be strong, they train with me. I have a lot of really strong clients, and they come from all walks of life. Like there's lots of different areas that I work with, but my niche is, 30 to 50-year-old women that work physically demanding jobs.
Mhm.
Um, And so that includes things like, nurses, of course. How many nurses do you know that have had back pain their whole lives because of their job?
100%.
Um, Nurses, tradeswomen, lots of labor jobs in that industry. Yeah, so anyone, and I mean, even if a massage therapist, right?
Hmm.
Like their job is still somewhat physically demanding, and I guess it depends
Very. Yeah.
how used to it you are, how many clients you see a day. But anyway, yeah. So the idea is to make them strong outside of work, so that work is just that much easier.
I love that. And do they usually come to you in they already work out, but they really want to get strong? Or is it like generally no experience with strength training and you're introducing it to them and helping them along that?
Um, I mean, both. I do have a lot of people that come from scratch and they're like, okay, I'm having this pain. I can't fix it on my own. I've seen physio. They give you so much help, and then I mean, depending on how good they are at their job, they just don't transition you into strength training a lot of the time, which is kind of unfortunate, and they don't refer you out. But that's just kind of how the industry is working right now.
Yeah.
It's headed in the right direction, I will say. But anyway, so yeah, I do have clients that have that, and then I have other ones where, yeah, they've been lifting, but they just aren't pushing themselves hard enough. So that
Yeah.
kind of just comes to an end.
Yeah, for sure. And that usually is something that I find quite often too with clients who are already working out or even they start strength training, but they don't understand how much to push themselves and to really get themselves outside of their comfort zone. So how do you kind of help edge them outside of that comfort zone where they kind of want to, stay comfortable?
Yeah. I don't know if you pay attention to a lot of my Instagram, but it's me kind of just being mean to people.
I love your ones where it was, I can't remember one of the ones recently, but it was like your client wanting to like, or your client saying something about increasing the weight. You're like, yeah, too bad.
But did you die?
Yes, that's the one. It was like, did you die? Too
Yeah.
bad.
That's how I train my clients. I'm like, you hired me to help you. I'm telling you that was on the easy side, and that if you want to get better, you got to lift more weight. And of course, like I said, with my injury and stuff, I work around stuff like that. I'm not going to force someone through pain, because
Yes.
that's not going to get us where we want to go. It's actually going to be counterproductive. And I do have compassion. Lots of people have good days, lots of people have bad days. But if I'm noticing that a client is having a good day, but they just want to stay and coast, that's when I'm a little bit like, come on, you
Yeah.
can do better.
Yeah.
Let's.
Yeah.
If you listen to me, then you'll get
Yeah.
better.
That's where when they get a drink of water, you slyly switch out the dumbbells without
Yeah.
saying anything. And you're like, hey, lift the weight now. And you say, oh, how did that feel?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another part of that is also educating on them on what actually feels heavy.
Mhm.
So lots of people, they'll do a set of 10. The first rep is the same speed as the last rep, which
Mhm.
means that it was nowhere near failure. And a lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, if I'm working, I'll feel it. And even if you get that burn, that doesn't mean that you're at your strength capacity, right? It's when
Yes.
that rep takes you 4 to 6 seconds to get done that you're actually getting close enough to failure and that you're going to see those strength progresses.
Yeah, that's a really good way to describe like reaching failure because a lot of people, when they think failure, they think like they literally cannot lift another rep. But it's like it's getting that, not necessarily meeting that point, but approaching it and understanding like how to approach it in a safe manner, but then also that it's a good thing to push yourself to that hard, that level of hard.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd be surprised. I mean, not you, but other people would be surprised at, even after a person has been lifting weights in the gym for even 5 years, they'll come and see a personal trainer. Um, and I'll say, oh, that looked pretty smooth. Like, we can still do more. I use the word smooth instead of easy because they say, that wasn't easy. And then they get mad at me.
Yeah,
How dare you
that's
say
a,
it? I say,
yeah, yeah, that's a very good way of phrasing it. Yeah.
yeah, and then it doesn't make them feel like they're not pushing hard enough because it is still hard.
Mhm.
It's just that if we want to progress in terms of strength, it's got to be closer to failure. Like
Yeah.
that's just how your body's. It needs that in order to react and to grow.
Yeah. Even like with ourselves, I find with myself, I know that I don't push myself as hard as I could. And definitely working out with another trainer, you push yourself so much harder. Like I worked out with like I had another trainer when I first started training that I was working out with. We would do a workout just here and there together. And yeah, he would push me significantly harder than I would ever push myself. And I thought in my mind that I was pushing myself, but obviously like I was pussyfooting around it 100%.
Yeah. You know what? I hired an online coach.
Yeah.
And she's a power lifter, so she's really good at programming things around, RPE and
Hmm.
back offsets and a bunch of stuff. And so she'll just tell me, she'll put in a weight that she thinks that I should be doing
Yeah.
for whatever. And I'm not doing 1 rep maxes all the time,
Yeah.
or anything like that, but, because that's not super safe.
Yeah.
Anyway, she'll put in a weight in there, and I'm like, ugh, I don't know if I can do that. I try anyway because it's written
Mhm.
down, and that's how my brain works. If it's written down, you got to at least try.
Yeah.
And she put in the work to put it in there and to put that work in. So I try it, and then most of the time I can do it. And I mean,
That's
if you
awesome.
can't, then you just write it in there. Try again
Yeah.
next time, or take
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Another thing that I found helpful is that I record my sets a lot of the times, especially
Mm.
things like bench press, where you're like, ooh, I don't know if I could have gotten 1 more. You
Yeah.
watch the video back and you're like, no, I could have gotten 3 more, just, judging by how fast it was moving and whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good point and I feel like a lot of people they think that recording themselves when they're working out is such a vanity thing, but it's not. It really helps with like improving your technique, seeing how hard you're pushing yourself and those kinds of things and it makes you better. It's a very underrated thing that not enough people utilize.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, most of the time I put that stuff on Instagram because that's how I run my business, right?
Of
That's how I
course.
connect with people. It's kind of part of my job. But a lot of the times, the reason that I'm recording it is to see, oh, should I have done 1 more? And maybe my next set, I should go up in weight or whatever.
Yeah.
Or was that as hard as I was thinking it was?
Mhm. Oh, no, absolutely. It's yeah, like I said, it's a very good way of being objective when you're looking at your own exercises. And then oftentimes you catch a lot of holes in your own training or your form or whatever. You're like, oh, I definitely had a lot more rounded back than I thought I did on that deadlift or that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I wouldn't say looking into the mirror, especially if you're looking sideways into the mirror, not super beneficial.
definitely not because you're like creaking your neck and everything. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I use
yeah,
good form if you're too busy trying to look at yourself in the mirror,
yeah.
to watch for things. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you where, yeah, it's better to just video it or go by feel or whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Or hire a trainer.
Or hire a trainer. That's what we're here for. I thought that we would talk about like I guess get into the general of women and strength training and why it's so important and how it's so beneficial for everyday life and I guess some of the stigmas and stuff that are still surrounding it. Like I feel like the fitness industry and women's fitness especially is has made quite a transition especially over the last 5 years into more strength training and training for everyday life and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, tell me a little bit about like what you see or what you have seen in your journey, whether it was with yourself or with clients or whatever it might be, like with women in strength training, why it's so important, anything that you've seen still come up in the gym as far as stigmas or resistance from clients or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I will say for myself, I went through that phase where, oh, I don't want to be too bulky and got to do reps above 12 for every set. And I was a
Yep.
cardio fiend, but that was mostly because of my sport. Like
Hmm.
soccer is very endurance based, obviously. There's a lot of running involved. So I did a lot of that stuff and I lifted really light weights because, yeah, I thought that too. I don't want to be bulky. And I mean,
Hmm.
it doesn't happen overnight. And of course, I've learned that. And
Yeah.
it's one of the things that even though people like you and me are pushing really hard for women to not think like that, um, it's still there. It's still a myth that exists. And I will say it's the older generations, I think, that have more of an issue with that because, like you said, things are changing. Um, People are becoming, more aware that strength training is good for you and that you're not going to become bulky overnight. Like that doesn't just happen
Hmm.
by accident.
Yeah, it literally does not happen by accident. I've been trying to do it accidentally for years.
Yeah, my client said that to me the other day. She's like, I'm waiting for this accidental bulky thing to happen. Like, what is it? And I was like, Okay, very funny. She's been
Yeah.
strength training with me for years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she said to me the other day, she said, I really appreciate my muscles. So thank you for that, Bailey. She said it makes it so much easier to go to work and not have to ask people for help because she works in the trades.
Yeah.
She's got to carry this like huge piece of machinery
Mhm.
up onto scaffolding. I think she said it's like 50 or 70 pounds.
Mhm.
No way would you be able to do that for 12 hours, not straight, of course, but you
Yeah.
know, at an intense job like that if you weren't lifting weights.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think that's kind of the underrated thing is that people don't think about how much easier it makes your everyday life. Like, just being stronger. Even like, yeah, clients will tell me the same thing about like being able to pick up their kids. Or even for me, it's, I live on an acreage now. I do a lot of chores and that kind of stuff. And it just makes it so much easier. Like, it's not, you know, yeah, all of these kinds of things. It makes everyday life better,
Yeah. And independent too. You know, you don't have to
especially
ask
that.
someone to help you.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, like your client mentioned, like being able to just get her job done and not have to ask for so much help to be able to lift things or hold things or whatever it is. Because yeah, there is a lot of that in the trades where you're having to lift and carry and
Yeah.
be in awkward positions while you're doing stuff. And yeah, it just makes it everyday life easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I do agree with you. You mentioned like a lot of the stigma still surrounding it because I was very much the same way as you when I first started. I was like cardio bunny, even though I hate cardio. And like, I was afraid to get bulky. I was afraid to gain muscle mass, thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. What was I thinking? I don't know. But how, like, a lot of our generation, the views on strength training and stuff like that has thankfully changed. But yeah, there is still the older generations that definitely have that mindset. And I mean, not all of them. Definitely, I give them that. It's not all of them, but it is that mindset of, you know, changing from cardio bunny to strength training is difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the issue though, is that you don't know unless you know. Like someone's got to tell you.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that they're seeing in media of all kinds is that women are supposed to be small, and then you see some athletes that purposefully dedicate their lives to looking the way they're looking, and then whenever someone has an opinion on them being bulky, well, I don't want to look like that. Well, it's not. That's not your body. You don't have to, but that doesn't mean that they didn't put in a shit ton of work to get to look like that. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's for their sport. Have you seen
Mhm.
the bodies of sprinters? Like they're
Yes. Yes. Or like Serena, I always think of like Serena and Venus Williams, like professional top level world tennis players, and they are athletes and they look like athletes and they train like athletes. Like they're not training like your everyday soccer mom. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
then, you know, of course, everyone has their opinions on celebrities, but someone says, you know, I don't want to look like her. And then other people are like, oh, you don't? Well, neither do I. And it sort of creates this terrible narrative that women aren't supposed to look like that. And it's not feminine and it's not attractive. And that's just not true. You know,
Yeah.
and it's up to nobody except you to decide how you want to look and how you want to feel about your body.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's hard, especially like for so many generations like ours. Like you think back to the early 2000s when, it was like thin was in. And that was the biggest thing for the longest time was everybody's goal was to just be fucking skinny.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter how they got to that goal. They just wanted to be skinny. And we wonder why so many women our age have eating disorders or had eating disorders as teenagers and that kind of thing. Like it's alarming. It really is.
Yeah, and I mean, some influencer types, they still kind of push that, where they feel the need to be small, so they kind of push it on other people, whether it's on purpose or not, they do, because
Mhm.
they're in the eye of, you know, however many million followers, and that's what they're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it is that like it definitely it's blasted on social media and especially as young women when you're seeing that all over the place and these people that you idolize are promoting this, you have to be thin, you have to look like this. It's no wonder why, there's so many girls out there still young girls with body image issues and everything like that.
Yeah. Which is why, you know, our job is so fulfilling is because we get to help them realize that how they feel and how they move is more important than what other people think about how they look.
Exactly. And moving away from, arbitrary numbers on the scale or the size of your clothes or whatever it is. Like The scale is a thing that I battle with a lot, in that, like, to me, when I look at my weight on the scale, I don't see it as a problem. Like, the number doesn't bother me anymore, but there's so many women out there, and especially like women that I work with, they look at that number and it fucking ruins their life. And that's so hard. Is that something that you find that your clients sometimes battle with as well? How do you help them kind of overcome that?
I wouldn't say the scale is a big issue. Um, I don't take measurements like that. It's all purely, about their strength and how functional and fit they are that way. Um, so I can't even think of one example where someone has said to me something like that. Usually, they might mention it off the cuff, and then I say, okay, but how do you feel?
Yeah,
Um, and you were able to do this thing at work, and that was easy. So the scale is just a data point.
exactly. Yeah. And that's usually how I would approach it with my clients, or if I have clients who are struggling like that, where the scale's just ruining their life, like, throw that fucking thing in the garbage then. Like, if you cannot overcome the emotion with it, or if every time you look at it, it ruins your day, throw it in the garbage, because you're now forgetting everything else that you've done. Like you said, like, how are you feeling? What are your lifts like? How's your consistency? All that kind of stuff matters so much more.
Yeah. So one of the things that I guess most of my clients struggle with is we might go through a strength phase where they're hitting all these PRs, they're lifting a shit ton of weight, they're feeling really good about how strong they are, and then they might get sick, or the holidays come up, or something ruins their consistency, um, or they're not sleeping well because they're stressed out, or and there's all these other factors that come into play. So I think one of the bigger issues is that, why can't I lift this? Why does this feel so heavy today? And that kind of stuff is more of what I have to help them realize, is that, look at 3 years ago when we first started.
Mhm.
Like, you're lifting a couple hundred more pounds.
Yeah.
Is that still big picture? You've still made progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, like, it is looking at that big picture and not letting that workout, that one workout or that bad week, because like I find for myself and a lot of my clients, like, your cycle, your menstrual cycle, can affect your strength. Not for every woman, but for a lot, their cycle can affect their strength, or right, your sleep. If you weren't feeling well last week, now your weights and stuff are down this week. Like, it's not a linear journey, just like anything else.
No, and even I have to remind myself of that too.
Yeah.
So, and especially with, like, the ACL recovery. One week my knee will feel great. I'll be able to do a bunch of stuff, follow all my physio to a T, and then the next week, for whatever reason, something triggers it. I stood too much at work. I walked too far with my dogs. I made too big of a jump in trying to progress with the rehab, and then it just swelled up, and then I have to take a step back.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It is definitely frustrating when that happens, and you're just like, shit, now I gotta ice it, and I gotta do the anvil, and I have to get back to doing my belt stretches and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, but I mean, big picture, I'm still moving towards my target, which is getting back to soccer. And
Yeah.
if it takes a little bit longer because, I'm focusing on fully recovering and not getting back too soon before I'm actually ready, and then I don't get hurt again as a result of, going back too early, and that doesn't happen because I've looked at the big picture and I still
Yeah.
try to progress and listen to my body when it decided that today just wasn't the day. Then
Yeah.
I'm much better off than trying to force something because this feels like shit today. Why did
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah. And I mean, with ACLs, the chances of re injury, I mean, again, I'm not going to spout off statistics, but a lot of people who will have the surgery tend to re injure themselves, or they injure the other knee. So taking your rehab slow and just knowing your end goal, but also embracing your journey, that is really smart. That's something that I actually feel like I did quite wrong in my journey. Is I tried to rush it because I wanted to get back to jujitsu as fast as I possibly could. And then I don't think that's the reason why I tore my meniscus. It was just one of those, again, it was just a little thing, a little blip on the radar, but it did end up, it started out as a small injury. And then, because I'm stupid, I call myself stupid, but you know what I mean, where I just didn't stop, then eventually I fucked it. And then I really hurt my knee again and had to get my meniscus removed. And now my left knee will never be the same. Like, because I was impatient. So I think having that patience, like, that is definitely smart.
and someone, paying attention to you. Like I said, Brendan is an expert in this area, so um, he's gonna follow me right back until I get back to soccer. It's not like oh, you're done with the bands, okay, go lift
Yeah.
weights. Like it's right now, it's return to chaos, which is not going so great. I'm not an agile, quick person to begin with, so even after learning how to walk again and all that kind of stuff, not the best. But then we move into sports specific, and then
Yeah.
it sets you up better.
Yeah. It does, right? Because then, yeah, you'll be that much more prepared and your body will be ready when you're ready to return to sport.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so, everyone has their own situations where that same idea applies. To someone, it might be losing weight. To another person, it might be lifting weights in the gym. To another person, it might be sport performance, injury rehab. Like it applies to a lot of movement
It
situations.
it really does. Yeah. How did you find, like, even for yourself and for your clients and stuff, like, working around injuries and thing? What was that like for you, or what's it like for your clients when injuries inevitably creep up because they happen to everybody? How's that been?
It depends on the client, right? Some people are okay, like they can understand why we have to pull back and maybe do some other exercises that would work on what might be a weakness for them. The rotator cuff is a common one. A lot of people don't do external rotations. Like it's just like the knee, the shoulder joint is just not the best.
It's not.
A lot of people just move throughout their day, putting things in positions, which they're supposed to be able to do, but then one day the body just decides we're not going to tolerate that.
Yep.
Right? So some of them are okay with pulling back a little bit, focusing on other areas. Some of them say, well, why can't we just do bench press today? And I'm like, because when we do bench press, you hurt your shoulder. Like, it will work out. There's no issue with that.
Mhm.
You have to work around the pain point that you have and allow it to recover. Um,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean we have to completely avoid movements.
Yeah.
In general, it just means that maybe that movement isn't for us right now,
Yeah.
and we can get back to it. You just have to be patient, um, and let your shoulder heal. Really, heal
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, and that you can work around them. I think, some people when they get injured, they get in the mindset of they can't do anything. Well, I'm injured, I might as well sit on the couch. And it's like that is honestly like the worst thing that you could do if you have an injury is do nothing. Is the
Yeah.
worst thing that you can do, not just for your physical health, but also for your mental health, to do nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's not like, if you have a knee injury, and I mean ACL also follows this, is that not moving your knee is not going to help.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't do things that cause excruciating pain. That's counterproductive. But you still have to move it.
Hmm.
You still have to have the muscles around it to support the joint.
Yeah.
And that's what they do in the prehab, where you strengthen all the muscles around the joint to help it after the surgery to recover better. Then you're in a better spot. And it's just like the shoulder. You don't have to not use that arm until it feels better, because then when you go to use it again, if it's an overuse injury, it's just going to come back.
Exactly.
Right? We have to work around it while still. It's like a fine line where you have to walk on. We want to strengthen everything, but we don't want it to cause pain. So
Hmm.
it's kind of that fine line of moving it enough in a range of motion that's comfortable, that doesn't cause pain, while still strengthening it. In movements that don't cause pain, even tempo has a lot to do with that. Sometimes just moving slightly too fast in a movement um, would cause pain, whereas moving nice and controlled and slow in that movement wouldn't.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like finding that balance between we still need to move it so that it can strengthen and stay
Hmm.
strong and rehab, um, but we don't want to just not move it.
Yeah.
That is,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that has been something that's changed over the last like 10 to 15 years as well, because the old adage used to be rice. When you hurt yourself, you riced it, right? You rest it, ice it, elevate it, and you compression and whatever the fuck it is. Anyways, and it used to be like you do nothing. You hurt yourself, you do nothing with that leg. Whereas, yeah, it's changed now where it's like you need to move it. You need to work it within your comfortable ranges of motion. You have to strengthen because otherwise you're right, it's just going to get hurt again. And I mean, the science has changed. We just need the public and everybody else to kind of change along with it.
Yeah, we need to have the right people educating the public. That's the thing. What's
Yes.
kind of funny about the rice thing is that in soccer, the first thing the referees do when someone gets down with an injury is they say, "Do you need an ice bag?" And so when I fell down, I thought it was just a mild knee sprain. Like I thought she had just kicked me.
Mhm.
Of course, I realized that ice has its place in some spots, but
Yes.
ref came over and he was like, "Do you want an ice bag?" And I yelled at him. I was like, "No, ice! Get away from me!" Like you gotta stop. Like that's the immediate thing is to just reduce swelling.
Yeah.
And studies are showing that swelling has a physiological point,
Purpose. Yeah.
right? So if you're doing it when it's not super necessary, you could be slowing the progress or the recovery ability
Mhm.
of whatever's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Like your body's doing it for a reason. Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting how the science has changed. I'm curious to see like what will come about in the next, 10 to 15 years coming from now that people are kind of changing their protocols around injuries and stuff, like how it's going to progress from here and just get better. But yeah, like, I mean, as annoying as swelling and stuff is, I mean, I battled with fluid in my knee for like 3 years on and off because it would go away and it would come back and go away and come back. Where, yeah, it is annoying, but it's also that was what my physiotherapist would tell me is like it's serving a purpose. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I want it gone so I can go back to jujitsu and hurt
Yeah,
myself again.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this has been good. I guess I wanted to do like some kind of fun rapid fire questions to finish us off, really quick. Are you down for that?
Yeah, hit me.
They're just like silly, just a few questions. So tell me your favorite TV show right now.
It is and will always be The Office.
Ooh, nice. I like that. Okay, next one is, do you have a guilty pleasure TV show? Like a trashy TV show that you don't want anybody to know that you're watching, but you're going to announce it publicly on a podcast that you're watching it?
Yeah, great idea. You know what? I don't really like reality TV. Um, I don't know. I don't really have one for that.
That's fair. That's fair. Mine
Sorry.
is, that's okay. Mine, I'll say mine. Mine is Sister Wives. Don't ask me why.
Hey, entertainment, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Chocolate or vanilla ice cream?
Vanilla
Nice. When you're working out, do you do podcast or music?
music.
Good choice. Pull-ups or bench press?
Bench press.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say pull-ups because I've been watching your pull-ups so much on Instagram and I'm super
I'm so
jealous of
mad
them.
at them though. I'm mad at pull-ups right now
How come?
because they're just not moving like they were last summer. It's just
Oh,
annoying,
that is
and it
annoying.
happens, right? But yeah, so I'm just no,
It's
not
annoying.
pull.
I get it. Okay, summer or winter?
Winter,
Really?
really.
Interesting. Tell me why.
Well, I mean, not that I can this year, but I do snowboard.
Yeah.
We're gonna miss the season, which is fine because the snow this year has been trash.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't been out once this year. I'm hoping to go out here soon, but like all the snow is now melting. I
What
think I
was it
missed the
like?
boat. Yeah.
+9 right here right now.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It
It's
is
January.
ridiculous. In January, right? At the end of January, which is abnormal for Alberta.
I was 40 2 weeks ago. Like, come
I
on.
know. It was insanity.
Yeah.
Total insanity. I'm surprised that you said winter, but yes, I could definitely understand. We got back into snowboarding for the first time in like 10 years last year, and I forgot how much I sucked at it, but B, how much I liked it, even if I do suck.
Yeah. Maybe a whole day of it, whole weekend even.
Yeah, yeah. So we're hoping to make it to the mountains here in the next couple of weeks, but I don't like if the snow melts, I guess that's just we're done. We don't have a season this year.
No.
That's
Maybe
okay.
it'll snow in March. Who knows? April.
You know what? We might. It might get hammered at the end of the season. We might have a snowy Easter, which is ironic because we did not have a snowy Christmas. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bailey, tell me a little bit about, I guess, like your training and stuff right now. Are you accepting clients? What kind of things you have going on? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do in-person training. I don't have any openings for that right now. But I do have openings for online coaching for one-on-one.
Awesome. Awesome. Tell me a little bit about, do you have any specific programs, just accepting clients currently?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be strong, let me know. That's my forte. That's the thing I like
Yeah.
to work with people the most. So, yeah, if someone's interested in online coaching, definitely hit me up on Instagram.
Instagram is the best place to find you. Okay.
Definitely.
And it's at Bailey Lau Fit, right?
You got it.
Lau for Lau. I will also post it in the show notes for this as well, and as well as the description on YouTube. Yeah, do you have a website or anything like that?
Yes. But again, if you want to contact me,
Just
go through my
Instagram.
Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can definitely do that. I will post that on Instagram. Well, thank you so much, Bailey. I really appreciate you coming on here, and I look forward to chatting with you again.